All right, so it's a wet Friday morning. Let me first of all say a very big thanks to you for keeping your dials locked here on yours truly, WoezorTV. My name is Randy Ahadzi, and welcome to the dialogue. A big thanks to the earlier crew for bringing us the breakfast cafe. But it's time for us to head into your favorite current affairs program that is every Friday from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. A lot to discuss this morning. Two main issues on our dialogue table for discussion. One, we're taking a look at the issues surrounding the Asante Akim MP that is currently in detention outside the shores of Ghana. What does that really mean for Ghana's international reputation, and also the relation between Ghana and the US as well as the Netherlands? It's a conversation that we'll delve deeper into. We will not touch on the merits of the case because we don't really know much about it. But of course, we take a look at the other issues that are related to the main matter that came up earlier this week. We shall also be looking at what the president did earlier this week, signing into law the value for money of is also a conversation, whether or not that is really the step to fighting graft. If indeed this time around we'll get some success stories from that as well. What does this really mean to the quest against, the fight against corruption? It's another conversation that we should be having this morning. My guests are already prepared for this morning's edition. I encourage you to join the conversation on all our social media platforms. Feel free to drop your messages under any of the live broadcasts, and I'll read them out loud and clear. You can also send us a text via WhatsApp number 055-269-7939. So brace up as we dialogue this morning. My name is Randy Ahadzi. We'll take a breather. When I return, I'll introduce my guests that are on a line waiting for the conversation, and then we can set the ball rolling. Stick and stay. There is more after the break.
Embarrassed. Too embarrassed to speak to a loved one. Too embarrassed to speak to your doctor.
Too embarrassed. When in our lifetime, 1 in 4 black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 1 in 12 black men will die from prostate cancer.
Let me repeat that. 1 in 4 black men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. 1 in 12 black men will die from prostate cancer disease.
1 in 12. That could be your dad, even your older brother, uncle, or grandfather.
You need to make sure they are not embarrassed to speak to you or their doctor about it.
Hey, Dad, have you had your prostate checked out? See? How hard is that? It's easy. Just start the conversation.
Prostate cancer is survivable if caught and treated early enough.
Don't let embarrassment stop you having this important conversation.
You may save someone's life.
Not just your own.
Welcome back. Many thanks for still staying with us right here on WoezorTV. This is the dialogue, and as I intimated earlier, two main conversations for us this morning. One, we're taking a look at the Asante Akim MP's detention and matters arising. The second one, we delve into the value for money office, and we ask a simple question: a new era of accountability as far as checking public spending is concerned. And joining me via Zoom is Professor Enoch Opoku-Entry. He is a governance and leadership expert. Prof, good morning, and thank you so much for joining us here on the dialogue. How are you, sir?
I'm doing wonderful, Randy. Good morning and greetings to your cherished viewers everywhere in the world.
Thank you. Hold on a second. Let me introduce the other guest as well. Dr. Jonathan Asante Ochre is the Executive Director, African Institute for Strategic Studies, and also a Senior Lecturer at UCC. Doc, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, Randy.
Very well. Yeah, all is well here as well. Joining us also is Dr. Ishmael Honovo. He is an international relations expert. Doc, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and good morning to your viewers.
Very well. Now, let me begin quickly with Professor Entry on this whole conversation on the MP that has been, arrested earlier. It was actually over the weekend, and we know he is in detention and all of that. Prof, first of all, does this incident question the current state of Ghana's political space? Questions raised about sources of funding for campaigns, sources of income for all these politicians. Does it raise any major issue at all?
That is a very tricky question because every individual is presumed to be innocent until proven guilty. And if you look at what is happening now with OK Frimpong, the issue is that he traveled. What we have from the FBI, he traveled from Ghana through Schiphol Airport, which is in Amsterdam, going to England. Now, that raises a lot of questions because every year I pass it through Schiphol not less than 3 times. So I know how strict they are. If you take most of the US airports out, in Europe, Schiphol and Heathrow are one of the most strict regulated airports. So why pass through Schiphol with KLM when you could have gone straight to London because he was going to England with British Airways? That was kind of a curious issue for me. But he's been accused of a couple of things. He's been accused of romance scam, fraud, money laundering, and FBI don't come into issues because I know the case was lodged at Illinois, and the capital of Illinois is Chicago, in that state. Once an issue moves from a state level to the federal level, it means that it's a big issue or a big scam, and that is when they give it to the federal, which is the FBI. Now, the FBI, it seemed they were tracking him until they got him to Schiphol, and it was easy for them to bring him into US and try him. We know that there are a lot of nuances on it because he traveled with a diplomatic passport. So the speaker has been involved. He's got some lawyers at The Hague being involved. He's got a couple of people who are trying to help him to find out whether he's innocent or guilty and whether he should be tried at Amsterdam at The Hague, or they should bring him, FBI should bring him to US to try him. That is going to be another extradition because we know that Abu Trika issue is still pending and Ofuriata issue has also not been resolved yet. So it raises a lot of questions about our officials and then the level of scam in our system. People are using shortcut to make money. I'm not saying he is, but I'm saying that before the FBI will come into an issue, then they have watertight evidence before they will come into an issue to arrest somebody. Other than that, in America, they will be watching you and watching you. Let me give you a typical example. There was a guy in Columbus, Ohio, who was making about $450,000 a year, and that's a curious amount. How does somebody make $450,000 a year? So the FBI came into the issue. What they did was very simple. They set up a broken car on the opposite side of his house. So you would think that there's a car that is broken. But the FBI has set up cameras and they were watching his movement in and out. Then they realized that he would go to work morning and come in the evening. He also had some business that he was doing. They tracked him for 3 months without him knowing because he thought there was a broken car on the other side. But there were cameras set up watching his movement until the FBI came in. So they would take some time. There were other people too I knew were doing drugs. I will not mention the state. And one time, because I was Ghana Association president in Ohio for a long time, we're having an event, and then there was immediate light off. Lights don't go off in America. There was immediate light off at the venue, and there were these people sitting beside me. They call them some name. Once I mention the name, people will know. So I'll not mention the name, but they were surrounding me. Anytime they come to your party or funeral or anything, they donate heavily, but they were doing other things, drugs. And once the light went off, I had a whisper in my ear that they are picking some people out there. The light came back on, and those people were gone. The FBI had picked them already. So I'm just giving this prelude for you to know how the FBI works. Unless they have that watertight evidence, they are not going to apprehend somebody. So it's going to be a drag case. They're going to drag it for a while because they have their evidence. That biggest issue now was how to get him out of Ghana. So they were tracking his movement. When is this guy going to travel? And once they see you in there that you are flying, then there's a red alert. They will track you and get you. Because we have an information that once he sat in the KLM flight, there were other officials from FBI who sat in the same flight close to him. So they were monitoring his movement, and he didn't know. So a lot of questions have been raised. When he contested at Asante Achim there, as an independent candidate, people raised that issue that where is he getting his money from? He owns Salt FM.
That's where I'll come back to you on. And because I know you have spoken at large about this, you have even written books concerning sources of funding for our politicians. I'll come back to you on that. If indeed there should be a well document that will ensure that all this more, maybe we can describe them as candidates or politicians who have interest in running or contesting some elections, they should be able to make their sources of funding known, or if there should be a different way of going about it. And also the concern about Ghana's reputation in the international world, bearing in mind that this is not just an ordinary citizen, he is a member of parliament representing a whole constituency. Yeah. What does that mean? I'll come back to you on that, but let me pick the reactions of Dr. Jonathan Asante Otre, who is also on. Doc, thank you. But you listen to Prof. For you, where you sit, what was your reaction when you heard this story that the MP was arrested and detained?
Well, Andy, good morning to your viewers and to colleagues and to your good self. Well, I was a bit surprised. We are looking at an MP that appears to be very hardworking, that has identified himself with the poor in his constituency. We are looking at an MP that even had to kneel to reach out to the president when the constituent tomatoes that had been produced, the glut that they had suffered or they had, achieved in that constituency, and then the president comes to his aid and gives an instruction as to what should be done. So we are looking at someone who is able to get his act together and be there for his constituents. For now, it is early days yet. It is not as though the FBI, they've not gotten certain things wrong before. They have. And I will first of all want to give him the benefit of the doubt until proven otherwise. But the subject matter here is, one, the cost of running to become an MP. First of all, internal elections, and then the substantive elections itself. Then the idea of the delegates that we have today feeling so entitled by virtue of those single votes that they give those who have decided to serve their own people. So it is a curse that is, around the necks of everybody who wants to serve as a politician in this country. I've had a chance to speak with some MPs, both sides. And the NDC some MPs that I've met gave me the impression that they need about 5 million Ghana cedis to first of all run for the internal primaries. So I ask myself, how much are you going to earn per monthly in Parliament that you need 5 million to run? Maybe 5 million for primaries and then probably the substantive election. And even that, it is still very high. So there is the push and the pull factors, you see, that have engendered and caused to happen things of that nature. So it is not that simple and easy for an individual to run as an independent candidate, win against someone who is a sitting MP belonging to the ruling party then, and they having more resources. So that should tell you that it will have to take something, obvious on the part of this particular individual to be able to win against, what's the name, the lawyer of Mr. Wuntumi. I think that is that particular constituency that he won. Apia Kubi or something.
Andy Apia Kubi, yeah.
Andy Apia Kubi.
Yeah.
So this should convince you that the over monetization of our politics is or has gradually begun a bane of our politics. It cannot in any way be separated. When it comes to people doing galamsey, getting illicit money, either to sponsor or themselves to contest, so that they will be cloaked with parliamentary immunity and then be doing businesses, as it were, that will propel, the kind of illicit businesses that they have been doing. And then, obviously, as I said earlier on, be cloaked with that parliamentary immunity. This is where we find ourselves. This is where we find ourselves. And so, it cannot only be an individual issue. It is the failure of the society itself that is making some individuals to assume and to do things that obviously will create problems for themselves and for their future. And I think this is not an exception. This is not to pronounce guilt, on this particular individual, but it is not good for the image of Ghana. Mr. Martin, some years back, during President Kufuor's era, from the NPP stock, this is an individual independent candidate that is caucusing with the majority in parliament. I think that the image of the country, people at that high level, is not good. Some of these things could go a long way to affect other MPs, as it were, and people holding other portfolios within the country. Because if it is proven to be true in terms of those allegations that have come into the public domain, then those who are occupying high-profile positions, within the country could easily be treated with the same kind of, and that is not good for the image of the country.
Doc, I'm grateful. Stay with me. I'll come back so you wrap up on that. I understand you need to run quickly to class. Let me bring in Dr. Ishmael Honovo as well. And Dr. Honovo, I want you to look at it from the level of country-to-country relationship. Now, we understand from the initial issues that popped up that the authorities here in Ghana were not informed about all of this. Do you think there was a breach in whatever treaty or whatever agreements Ghana has signed with the US, with the Netherlands and other international communities?
Thank you very much. First of all, the choice of a method to investigate crimes and prosecute crimes is at the discretion of the states involved. So depending on the circumstances, if they feel like involving the Ghanaian authorities will prolong whatever they want to achieve, and given the status of this person, if in their thinking it likely that the political establishment in Ghana may want to interfere, then they will rather adopt an approach like this, where they monitor him to another friendly country, and then they will kick in and get what they want to be done. So you can't say it's a breach. Of course, it speaks to issues of, if you may call it, trust. But then I'm not sure that there's a country that set up its security system to totally trust another country's security setup. That is not what applies. You have to always look at the circumstances of the issue involved, and then ask yourself, if I want to prosecute these crimes quickly, will it be more favorable for me to get the Ghanaian authorities involved? What are the implications? And given the local political context, and this is an MP that has endeared himself very well to his constituents.
Yeah.
So let's assume that this MP is arrested in Ghana, kept in BNI cell, and then you will see a huge number of people who mobilize and they are on the streets. So if you have this political context of law enforcement, and you are the FBI, sometimes it is safer and quicker for you to choose another jurisdiction, knowing very well that this MP is also one that may travel. You may want to adopt that approach. So they've not breached, you can't say they have breached any agreement. That the agreement on the extradition, the agreement of cooperation of security will not say that by all means, if you suspect a criminal in my jurisdiction, make sure you arrest him in that jurisdiction. So it is, for me, where I sit is they look at the options they have, and they believe that to get him, the best approach is to ensure that maybe he travels to a country that they are very sure that the procedure will be faster for them to get him. So you can't necessarily say that there have been any breach of your international agreement and so forth and so on. Of course, as is in Australia, you have the option to extend legal and diplomatic services to him to ensure that he gets fair trial, even if he's to be extradited to the US, or if he's to be tried in Australia, or possibly if he's supposed to come back home and face charges, because those things have to be discussed. You have to know the charges they are professing against him. You have to then look at, are you sure that he will get justice in Australia or the US? These are options that maybe Parliament and the Ghanaian government may have to look at. And at least before we come to a certain conclusion that he has been prosecuted of a crime, let him have the benefit of legal representation, the benefit of a fair trial. So that it's not like an MP have just been arrested and doesn't have the benefit of all this. So what we should be concerned more about is about how do we ensure that even in facing trial, he is given a fair deal.
All right, Doc, I'm grateful. I'll come back to you in a jiffy. But, Prof, let me bring you in here. Talking about reputation, Dr. Asante mentioned it as well. It doesn't really augur well for the country. Do you agree with that? One will also say that, this is a private or a personal issue that he's dealing with. Why wrap the country in it? Because there are other Ghanaians or other nationals that have been extradited over the years. Why should this be even a big deal and even in the public domain? So reputation out there, does it matter?
Yes, it matters a lot, because if this is true, then he has brought the image of our parliament into disrepute. And that is something that he can be kicked out of parliament. We know about Martin's case, Kufuor's time, about drug issues. And what happened? There was fresh elections down there. So if you are a public figure, everything that you do is public. It's not private. It's just like your faith. Your faith, what you believe in, is public. It's not private, because it shows in your character everywhere you find yourself in leadership. Imagine somebody who's a congressman or a member of parliament in UK, or a congressman in US being caught for, fraud, for money laundering and all these things. That's a big issue. It's not a small issue, it's a big issue. So it brings the whole parliament, our whole parliament, to disrepute. And then suspicion about leaders when they travel outside. They will be searched more they will not even bother to use the diplomatic passport anymore. They will treat you like any ordinary citizen because they suspect you more than the ordinary citizen, and they expect you to know more as a public figure. So we should tread on caution. If you're a public figure, that's not everything that you can do. But you also raise about question of funding. The expectations of the people corrupt some of these leaders. I've contested election in Ghana, and I'm telling you that yes, he mentioned 5 million Ghana cedis, which is less than $500,000. Primaries, $500,000 will not take you anywhere. Because if you have about 1,200 delegates, just 1,200 delegates, and every time you meet a group, you give them 20,000, 2,000 here, 3,000 here, 5,000 here. You have bigger events that you invite them, and the whole campaign runs for about 1 year or 2 years who start early. So you'll be spending money and money. And you know that this guy in Asante Achim there had built a mosque. He's the only non-Muslim who has built a mosque there, and his name is on the mosque. He has a TV station built. He's even building a whole interdenominational church for the constituency, and nobody has questioned where he had his money from. Yes, there have been rumors that he is a fraudster, whatever it is, but those are still mere rumors. They have not been proven. And I said earlier that if FBI will arrest you, it means they have watertight evidence. They wouldn't do that because they know if not done anything, you will sue the American government. So a lot of people travel through Schiphol and other places before they will arrest you. Then they have a lot of evidence against you. So yes, they have to go to the reason why we all go to court is that the court wants you to prove it in a proper way. That is why we all go to court. And this doesn't sound good because it means that all traveling outside, they will scrutinize them, but they will be traveling on suspicion, especially when you have diplomatic passport, because they have seen for based on what your colleague have done. So in account, we say Wakoka, he has brought an issue of suspicion to our whole parliament, which shouldn't be the case. But I'm also glad that the speaker is not sitting on this. And then they have, contacted Ghana Embassy in the Netherlands, and they are working. They found a lawyer for him at The Hague, a Ghanaian lawyer there, which is a good thing. He might understand him better than a white lawyer. So let's see what comes out of it. But I think that expectation of the delegates has really corrupted our people. And the way we have made money crassy instead of democracy, we've made so much money into our system of democracy to an extent that a poor person who is wise and committed to the community can never win an election because they don't have money. It's all about sikasep money. But any nation that has prospered is the intelligence of the people. It's not the money of the people, because the brain brings all the resources that we are looking for. Yes, you can have all the cars that people are using and they are bragging about. Somebody made them. Somebody engineered them. The houses that people are talking about, somebody engineered and did the blueprint and the design. All education. And I don't know why we are going for the method instead of looking for knowledge. Because the Bible says of knowledge. That is the only reason why people, it is not for lack of wealth. It is not for lack of anything, but for lack of knowledge. We are not looking for knowledge. We are looking for material things that don't last, and that is not going to help us. So let's pause as a nation and think about the way we have been using money to convince delegates to vote for them. And sometimes you don't blame these delegates because at the grassroots, they make kings and queens. They make you the MP. They make you the president. Power them. We them. But unfortunately, after the elections, they don't see anything. They are not treated well. That is why they use this of campaigning as a period to make money from these individuals, because after that, they will never hear from them again. So let's see promises that people make. And then after that, they don't hear anything from them. That is why some of them are collecting money from the beginning. But that is not going to help us because we are going to hit the end of the road. But when we begin to select individuals, some people have even raised a question about the quality of the ninth parliament, this current parliament, the quality of the individuals there. There are a lot of people, when they speak, you are even wondering, Are they educated? Where did they go to school? This guy is a very interesting guy, the guy that has been caught. You know, he started speaking Chi in Parliament. And then they asked him why. He said that his people want to hear him speaking their language. So he has his own mind. It's unfortunate that this has happened, but if it is true, then he has bring that parliament, our, sacrosanct parliament in name, into disrepute. And I think that that will bring a lot of sanctions and suspicions about parliament to the rest of the world, which doesn't look good.
Prof, I'll come back so you wrap up on this for us in the jiffy. But Dr. Jonathan, come in for me on this, and this is where you wrap up. The point again has to do with the immunities. I mean, this would have been a difficult situation if it had happened here in Ghana, because we know the Constitution provides them with some sort of immunity. Does that not extend beyond the borders of Ghana?
Well, I don't think so. They are in a different jurisdiction. Ours is virtually to protect our own citizens within the space and time of the country. And so you cannot extend that. That will have to mean that you have to appeal to international law, for example, maybe the Hague and other things, because you have those conventions there. But other than that, I'm not too sure, and that cannot be the case. It is just that those things that are due every citizen within that particular country, obviously will also be due to foreigners who find themselves there. Of course, the basic thing is that you must be taken through the rule of law, the process of rule of law, because the basic thing there is that, first of all, you are a human being. Two, you belong to two different jurisdictions, and therefore it ought to be stated that that which is due you will be accorded. That is what happens, unless maybe you are a hardened criminal, and of course they will just want to, put you behind bars and then just throw the key somewhere else. Maybe you are a murderer and all those things. But if you are involved in some kind of silky crimes, as it were, you can look at romance, you can look at money laundering. I mean, those things, you need people with high brains to be able to outwit the system. And obviously, you will want to see if you are interconnected and that you're not doing things all by yourself and so on. So it will take a little while, but I can say authoritatively that I don't see how the laws of this country in terms of his diplomatic immunity that affect him could affect him there. He cannot anyway be treated as a common criminal. That one, it cannot be. But all the cases that, are due people of high profile ranking within our country, obviously, will be done. And so it is in sync with what Mr. Dafiamafo, put out there about some few days ago, that the MP is well, he's being treated with all the courtesies, and so on and so forth. And so that is something that should be done, and that is something that they are doing. But in terms of our law, extending our law there or that diplomatic immunity, it is, but you cannot apply it there.
Doc, finally, before you go, what should the Ghanaian authorities be doing? From now till probably when the case is being heard outside where it's happening?
Well, you see, when something happens, we raise all the eyebrows and then it dies down and it's business as usual. This is a symptom of a major problem. Of course, I believe that they will extend all the cases. They will be very much careful and display some kind of tactile when it comes to the cases that they equally want to extend to him over there. But I am saying that this is a symptom of the larger problem. The larger problem is the monetization, the over-monetization of the political space. It will definitely create situations where we may have, criminals in parliament, and those who might have gotten money through illicit means, as it were, to try to legitimize those kinds of wealth by finding themselves in parliament encloak themselves with diplomatic immunity or parliamentary immunity. So we need to look at this delegate system and the demand, you see, by constituents as well. The larger problem too is that there's too much, poverty is so much endemic within the system that, for example, you will have in situations like, for example, you hear Mr. Sami Jemfi has gone to probably TV3 and he's doing a program. By the time you say Jack, over 200 people, party faithful, are waiting for him. For what? Poverty. Poverty. One favor here, one assistance here, and so on and so forth. That is what politicians must be much worried about. You see, creating a situation where we alleviate poverty so that you do not need this kind, of interventions. Because at the end of the day, where is that person getting that money from? And those who are MPs, that you go to them on regular basis, where are they getting their money from? So, Mr. What's it called? The current, the MP, Achim, that MP is now in the arms of the law, but you cannot say that he's the only person. You cannot say that. Maybe we can say that in a very cynical way, a thief is the one that is caught. If you are not caught, you are not yet a thief. But we should be worried about the expenditure patterns of our MPs and where they get the money from. You see, at the end of the day, you may have MPs who are ministers. And what do we see? To be able to ensure that they stay in power, enjoy those parliamentary, largesse, what do? If they have opportunity, they will inflate contract prices. If they inflate contract prices, it will become the burden of you and I, as ordinary citizens, to pay for those debts that the state will incur. So it is a bigger problem than what we are seeing today. And it is just that, as I said earlier on, it is just, like an immediate problem. But the remote problem are those ones that are outlined. Then okay, maybe that is the next topic, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So thank you so much, Doc, on that note. Let me wrap up with Dr. Ishmael Honovo as well. Doc, indeed, you look at the diplomatic relations, I mean, one way or the other, this is not just an ordinary citizen, and I'm posing that same question. Should the immunities not extend beyond just the borders of Ghana? And two, if you look at it, would this have any major effect on the countries involved in this particular case? I'm talking about Ghana, Netherlands, and probably the US.
Thank you very much. I think that you should understand where the US will choose to do the thing the way they did it. One, you understand that arresting an MP in Ghana is always very difficult. There's this protection they have. That is one. And they also have protection of the other people on the street. One of the panelists described that the level of poverty has virtually turned those people into weapons for MPs' protection. So without them, they will be on the street. And so it's got to be complex if they are attempting to arrest him there. That is one. So they will choose this option. And can you extend the parliamentary privilege they enjoy in Ghana to an outside jurisdiction? That is no. The only area you are looking at, if you have some immunity, is to say that he is traveling on a diplomatic passport. But traveling on diplomatic passport does not necessarily give you the guarantees of immunity. If assuming is on official diplomatic duty, then you could argue about some level of immunity for him. Even that, some countries will still arrest you, nevertheless, either you're on official duty or not. But it seems that he's on personal duty. And so once you're on personal duty, holding diplomatic passport, the only thing that country will do is to treat you fairly, and then that's what they are doing. So you cannot extend your domestic protection of the MP to an outside jurisdiction. If it is the sitting president, then there's a little bit of international immunity that he will enjoy, or he's a serving ambassador in that jurisdiction. Then we can talk about proper diplomatic immunity. Even sitting president, these days we have seen practices in the national diplomacy and international relations, where when they are accused of committing serious crimes, particularly if they have ICC warrants on them, some countries may consider arresting them. So it is not a clear case that once you are traveling with a diplomatic passport, you are immune from arrest. No, it doesn't work like that. It depends on the kind of assignment you are doing and your status within the diplomatic ranking at the time. So here is just an MP traveling on diplomatic passport for his personal business. So he doesn't have that diplomatic standing within that jurisdiction. They acknowledge that he's an MP, so they were sending courtesy to him. But the fact that there's a crime hanging on him means that they will have to arrest him and then let him face the law. So ideally, international relation, international diplomacy, and international convention, the immunity parliamentarians enjoy always happen within their sovereign jurisdiction, except that they are on official duty, diplomatic duty. Then you can say that there is some level of diplomatic immunity related to them. So we where we are now, we have no argument in terms of extending immunity to him. And the issue of relations, there's no danger of maybe a tension between the countries. So far as Australia give the Ghanaian counterpart the courtesy of ensuring that the MP arrested have the benefit of the rule of law, have all the courtesies that they will extend to an MP extended to him. You cannot seriously fault them. You can also not fault the United States for choosing the method they choose, knowing your local situation and deciding to avoid a very long process, but rather monitoring him to come out of that jurisdiction. And so, if anything, it should lead to a better cooperation in terms of trying to fight these crimes before they even occur early enough. And that also tells us that, you see, crime has no expiry date. So if you think that by committing, I'm not saying that the gentleman is guilty, but if you go and commit crime and use those proceeds of crime to enter the political space to get covering for those things, at one point or another, because it is transnational, you will be found out. And if you are found out, there are certain cases where the laws of this land may not be able to protect you out there. So, and of course, people have said it. Speak to the broader issue of political party financing, the way we want the MP to play developmental roles without the resources. All this is just a system that needs some level of fitness. And so Ghana, US, Australia relations is still good enough, is good. This should not lead to any diplomatic tension so far as the guy is treated. But we must look at ourselves in the mirror and begin to ask the hard questions that we have yet to ask all this for. Where are they getting the money from? Where are they able? In fact, CDD says that it takes about $68,000 for you to attempt the parliamentary elections in Ghana. It takes between 100 million to 200 million to attempt the presidency. Now, if somebody says that amount, is it going to serve you? How can I pay $100 million to win an election and say that I love Ghana so much? So it doesn't work like that. So we have to have a broader conversation about what we are doing here in the name of democracy, and particularly in terms of financing, and find a model that ensures that there's more transparency in how people get their money to come to political office.
Doc, I'm grateful. Thank you also for that analysis. Prof, let me wrap up with you on this topic before we move into the next one, which has to do with value for money office law. I mean, indeed, it will tie into what we are discussing now with regards to sources of funding for our political bigwigs as well. But Prof, finally, what next? What happens to his seat? Now we are not certain whether the case will end anytime soon. What happens in this space? Remember, he's representing a constituency.
Yes, unfortunately, he's not going to be a voice for his people. So, OK Frimpong's voice will be missing in Parliament until this case is decided. And that is unfortunate because the people need him there to be making laws. That is his core mandate. We also have to know that crime really erases diplomatic status. So anytime, whether you are a diplomat, whatever position you find yourself in, you commit crime and it's involved in another country. So if it's in your country, that's different. But if it's in another country, nobody gives a damn about your status in your country because you've crossed the borders and you've committed a crime in their country. So we should be careful and check the backgrounds of individuals who really come to parliament. It's not everybody because they have money and the people have voted them. There should be a background check about individuals who want to enter into our public space to lead us because the leaders are supposed to model the way for our citizens. Now, moving forward, I think that the people will suffer now, but this case is going to be also dragged a little bit because it's involved in 3 different countries. He committed, it's a wire transfer scam laundering issue. So they have tracked from either London, where he stayed, because he goes to London often, where he stays, and then the Schiphol airport. That means he uses Amsterdam as a route, and then Ghana. Then US has come in. So these 4 countries will be involved in the process. And Hague has a lot of great legal system. You know, the International Court of Justice is at The Hague. So yes, once we have a lawyer for him, it will go to court, and then they will decide whether he's innocent or guilty. But until that case is decided, we cannot have any fresh elections at that place.
On that note, we'll take our breather. When we return, we delve deeper into the value for money office, a new era of accountability in public spending. That is the question we're asking. This is the dialogue. There is more after this break. All right, so welcome back. Thank you for still staying with us right here on WoezorTV. Remember, this is the dialogue. Earlier, we had a conversation on the case hanging around the Asante Achim MP who is in detention in the Netherlands. Of course, my guests, they have made justice to it. But it ties into the next conversation that has to do with what we saw earlier this week, where President John Dramani Mahama has given presidential assent to the value for money office bill, paving the way for a new institutional framework aimed at tightening oversight of government procurement and curbing inflated public contracts. We've heard reports over and over again. Anytime the Public Accounts Committee comes out, they issue statements on, malfeasance here and there, inflated figures in contracts, especially road contracts here and there. But whether or not this will be the new era for accountability in public spending, we are here to see how it rolls out in the coming days. But let me start off with you, Dr. Jonathan, on this one. What will be your initial reaction? Some say this is more like a duplication of offices that already exist. Do you agree with that school of thought?
Well, to to a larger extent, there is that kind of potential, duplication of effort and function. The whole thing is about ensuring that there is physical responsibility and then cost efficiency in public spending as far as our government is concerned. So that is basically the main function of value for money in office. Now, the finance minister reiterated the fact that there's not going to be a new burden on government purse. It is going to be self-financing. The job that they are going to do will be able to raise enough to run this particular office. We have the PPA. We have certain arms of government that have ensured that there is corruption-free. But the main thing is that how have we been able to solve corruption or fight corruption within the country? The main means by which we have been fighting corruption is when the horses have already bolted. And so it is rather better to have some kind of an office that will ensure that the horses do not bolt before we go after them. So before the thing comes out as what it is, it will have gone through that particular office. There is a tendency of delay in terms of actualization of projects and programs that will have been outlined or earmarked by government because of this kind of duplicitous, offices that we have without, making value for money office as an exception. The other aspect that I see is that I don't also want to think that the finance minister will want to be that powerful or more powerful than his compeers. It's as if anything without him, nothing of government will work. That is very dangerous. That is equally very dangerous. And I think that if that is not the case, then probably value for money in and by itself is good. So we only have to wait and see to be actualized. I think that this is not a country where we need to delay on certain basic things. Good roads, good hospitals, good schools, financing of agri projects, agri-businesses here and there. We are just behind time. And so, the system, the bureaucracy within the system often delays a lot of things. And I don't want to think that value for money office that is supposed to ensure fiscal responsibility and then cost efficiency in terms of projects that are will become another layer that will create another bureaucracy and probably frustrate the kind of things that people do in the system and then make the finance minister more powerful. I think that is something that some of us will not accept.
Thank you. Dr. Honvo, are the procurement laws not clear enough? Is there any ambiguity hanging around the procurement laws? Thus, a new office ought to be created to check inflated figures as far as contracts are concerned. And again, the issues of duplication, where do you stand? Dr. Honvo, are you there? Okay, I think we're having some challenges with Dr. Ishmael Honvo's connection. When we are able to get him, we'll bring him back onto this conversation. But Prof, whilst at it, let me bring you in quickly on this topic as well. You listen to Dr. Jonathan Asante-Okyere. He feels that, yes, if you go deeper into it one way or the other, there seems to be some duplication. But I am asking that if it is about procurement and all of that, don't we have enough laws already tackling issues on inflated figures?
We've not seen the results that we're looking for, and I think that is why the value for money office is very, very, very important in fighting corruption. One, because it's a path of buy for public spending, and the president assented to that bill on which is the Value for Money Office Act 2026 on May 11, 2026. and they have a clear mandate, to stop waste, inflated contracts, and abandoned projects in public spending. If you look at White Elephant's jaws, projects started by previous governments and abandoned, there are many, and the money spent. Talk about Saglame. Just that. There are many of these projects abandoned. Talk about the day schools that JDM built and they were left to rot in the bushes. So that is important. Then they have a mandate to give certificate. So they will give you certificate. And the reason why this is different, I'm going to, step by step explain so that people will really understand. So they have that mandatory value for money certificate before contracts are given. That means that you will sign the contract before you are even given the contract. Then they will replace the finance ministry's legal division checks. Because if you look at previously what has been done with these contracts is that the Ministry of Finance have some legal team that verify, but they don't have the technical capacity. So they don't have people with engineering background. They don't have people with surveying background. They don't have people with audit background. They are just legal people who have been handling this issue. So the technical piece is going to be added, which is very important. Then we have independent oversight, which is also very important. Then they are going to assess the economy, effectiveness, equity, sustainability of spending. These are all important. Then they will also monitor project implementation and enforce sanction. That is also something that others have not been doing for us. Then they will target main leaks in public spending, inflated arms, abandoned projects and cost overruns, procurement irregularities, wasteful spending. These are areas that alone, Public Account Committee is saying that from January to October last year, over $12.7 billion lost. So look at the money being leaked there and the way they are going to do it. But we also have to look at the implementation plan. So government allocating resources to operationalize the office is important. And then appointment of leadership. Which kind of leaders are we going to appoint to man that office? Because when there are contracts by government, or when government have interest in some contracts, let's say like the big push, are they going to be able to be independent minded and do a lot of things? So the next 6 months, we'll see what will happen. They will appoint leaders and then it starts January 1st or January 2027. But the president talked about a couple of things that I also want to raise. He said he's going to build confidence in institutions, not just in speeches. So we have had a lot of speeches about fighting corruption, but this one is going to take the speeches out of it and real action. Now, also plus relying on post audit. PAC, Public Account Committee, they look at the Auditor General's report and then call individuals to Parliament to question them. This one is going to be different. They will do ex post audit. What it means is that they will do pre-post audit. They will even look at you, what you're going to do, and then they will stop you on your tracks when they feel that your contract is inflated, you are not doing a good job. Recently, the Minister of Roads have been going to check some of the roads. We were told that somebody had been giving mobilization money of 80.2 million Ghana cedis, and the road, nothing has been done. And I saw the minister agonizingly saying that if mobilization money has not been paid to that contractor, he would have abrogated that contract. But already the person has been giving mobilization money of 80.2 million Ghana cedis, and nothing has been done on the road. We've seen about Bank of Ghana issue. People are talking about all these mega projects. We don't have any office that is handling those issues. So yes, until Auditor General will wait at the end of the year, they will come and audit the account and then raise that kind of flag, red flag, that this is what is happening there. But by that time, the harm is already caused. That is why this is important. I look at what is happening. South Africa have a similar office, Kenya have a similar office, and UK also have a similar office. And we can pick a couple of things from them. One, the pre-contract certification, like what Kenya is doing, what they call the PPRA model, is stop waste before it happens. So that is good. And then they have to focus on high risk projects or high value projects like mega projects. That's what UK is doing. Then they can also publish criteria and report to civil society and the media So they can report name and shame. This contractor has not been doing their work. This is what is happening. They report directly to Parliament. So Parliament call this office, and then they work in concentration with Parliament to bring out the rod. So that, I think, is going to be different. It's not going to duplicate what is there from the OSP, from the UCO, and others. They wait until crime is done, and then they have to prosecute or audit and then try to retrieve the money. These people start by giving you a certificate before you start, and that certificate, mandates them to even stop you in the middle of it or even before you start the project if they feel that you are not going to do a good job. So I think it's a good thing.
Let me bring you back into this. Prof mentioned two key things, and I want you to react to them. One, he spoke about who is going to man that particular office. Again, there comes in a political interference. If indeed that happens, then we might probably go back to the era of what we've seen with the special prosecutor, the attorney general, and all of that as well. Is that not what is likely to happen? Who mans this particular office? Okay, whilst we're waiting for Doc to reconnect, Prof, I'll throw that question at you as well. I mean, talking about who mans that institution, that office, again, it's going to be a political appointee. Whose side is this appointee going to be? And talking about the priorities of the government has pumped in 10 billion into road construction. That is a big push. Imagine, that is a priority, and this is an office that ought to audit some of this, or fact check some of these things. What happens in that regard?
I think that, it all boils to leadership, and we've seen some that Martin Amidu is a known, a politically exposed figure from NDC, but MPP use him to start the office of the special prosecutor. We know Kisia Jaben's relationship with Gabi and the others, but, he was also being used there. There are individuals who are politically exposed, but they are maverick, they are independent-minded people, and there are a lot of them out there. The president picked Professor, what's the name for the Constitutional Review Committee, Professor Prempe, to do that. So there are individuals who are independent-minded, even though they have, they join political parties. We all belong to one or two different political parties, and that's okay. But you have to be independent for the sake of the position. So I think that it needs somebody with a leadership background to chair. And then you can have a very renowned, competent lawyer for the legal piece. You can have, somebody who knows about auditing. So a former auditor general can be part of the team. So they are building a technical team, but you need somebody who coordinates all the teams. So legal, survey, engineers, people who can see the nitty-gritties of contracts and procurement, what they do, and the tricks that they do out there. Once you have that technical team, then they can move into concert to make sure that any contract that is not bringing value for the money we have invested, we stop that individual in the tracks. Either let the person refund the money and give it to another person. They can also say that when you build a road, it should take at least 10 years or 20 years. If it doesn't last that time, you will come back and spend your own money to build the road. So you make sure you do a good job. That will make sure that we have value, true value for money in everything that we are looking for, because roads don't last. It's just sapity. They throw in the everything there, and then the roads are back to the potholes. We have contracts, even school buildings or toilet facilities, that the prices are 3 times higher than what an ordinary person will pay when they are building on a private system. So there are a lot of inflated figures. There are a lot of incompetencies and inefficiencies in the system, and we need somebody like the president, a leader who can coordinate all these technical people, bring them together: legal, auditing, accounting, engineering, surveying, procurement. Bring experts of team together so that they will not duplicate what is already there, but they will do something unique, and making sure that we are saving a lot of money for ourselves, because we don't have the money. We are still borrowing from other countries. And the little money that we have, Tanzania have done a great thing. They built what they call the sinking fund with something like this. So all the money that they are saving, they put that money into a sinking fund to save it, and they have paid all their debt with IMF and World Bank. And this is what I expect them to do, to think forward. The money that we are saving, what we are going to use it for to build our nation.
I will come back so we wrap up on this, but let me get back and speak to Dr. Jonathan. He's back on. Doc, and I'll throw the same question to you. New office, same appointor who has appointed other people to similar offices is still in charge, and he has created this office. Definitely, he would appoint somebody to man at that office. How different would this even be from the rest that we have seen over the period with regards to issues of interference here and there? You have seen even the special prosecutor cry out over and over and over again that Attorney General also has similar challenges with loads of issues on their table. And again, you watch the Public Accounts Committee, every year they churn out reports, but people don't necessarily get punished. Should we not redirect our attention in enforcing that people are punished to curtail some of these things rather than creating a new office? Hello, Doc. Are you there? Okay. Rather unfortunate. I think that we have lost Dr. Asante again in that space. But Prof, thank you. Maybe we would have to do a one-on-one so we wrap up on this topic.
Yes.
Doc Park
Yes.
is doing, I mean, they keep giving us the reports here and there, but one thing is clear. We don't necessarily see the end result where people are punished for all kinds of malfeasance. Should we rather not empower and resource the already existing agencies or institutions so they tackle some of these issues rather than creating a new one?
So that's a very good question. There has been the concern of duplication of existing bodies without clear division of labor. And what that means is that people have been given mandates that are similar. So the law of diminishing return comes in. It's like you are adding more variable input into a fixed input. What happens is that marginal returns will rise, reach an apex, and begin to fall. And that is what we are having. We've reached an apex of it. Too many institutions trying to fight corruption, and they begin to fight themselves. Now, the Office of the Special Prosecutor and even Attorney General Office are fighting for prosecutorial powers that a high court has been given to the Attorney General. And that means that the OSP, if they need to prosecute somebody, they have to go through the government appointee of government appointee of the Attorney General. So it's kind of nebulous in the way things are. But I think that it's also like doing a research. A lot of people have done research in the same area that you are doing a research. But you are going to look at it in your literature review, say that, okay, Randy did a study on this, let's say on public relations and found this. Enoch did another study and found this. John did another one on a different population and found this. But in all these studies, there's a gap. Somebody have not done a research on public relations and the way they relate to delegates. So that's what I'm going to do. So in research, you are going to fill a gap of what other researchers have not done. So in research, you are not proving anybody who have done research on the field right or wrong. You are just going to add to knowledge. And I think that is how I see this office of value for money. They are going to add without duplicating what is happening. And now they begin with issuing the mandate of giving you a certificate before you start. So that certificate has a lot of tasks given to you, that this certificate that we are giving to you, you start the work on this date, you complete. So the scope of that project is given to you, you complete this date. This is the quality. We have the technical people to come and inspect daily on that field. So there will be field people who will be working on the field. And with the technical brains, you can assess right from the FMP beginning of facilities management plan, how paper documentations are all done before they start. And they have the mandate to revoke the contract from you, even when you have just started or you have not even reached the middle of it. They don't wait till you are done to see that you've done a poor job, and then they come to chase you like the PAC and the Auditor General and say that refund the money, or this is what has happened. Because by that time, it's too late. The money is gone. So this one begins early, and that means it's not going to duplicate other people's work. Those OSP and the PAC and the Auditor General are at the back end. This office of value for money is at the front end. And I think that any organization that you go, the front end is more important than the back end. Why? Because the secretary there who welcomes you, if they frown their face and they don't welcome you very well, you have a bad image about the company before you even meet the CEO. If the security people there don't treat you well and they don't show you where to park your car, and then you keep running in circles, you've already had a bad experience of the organization before you meet the leadership there. So yes, the front end here, if we do it well, the back end is going to be easy. We are not going to have that kind of challenges where people will steal the money and now we are scrambling to find the money back. So I think it's a good thing. They are not going to duplicate anybody's job, but they are going to make sure that the right people get the right, contracts. And then corruption doesn't come in the middle or from the beginning or the end, but it is stopped from the beginning so that by the end, a PAC will spend less time in trying to retrieve money, and then the auditor general job will be easy because people will not even be doing inflating figures, and they don't have the technical capacity and all those that. So that independence is needed. And if we give this institution the value for money of it, that true independence, and again, we need that independence. If that independence is given, and it's going to be not going to be like this is government contract, so you have to, look somewhere and then let us slide with it, then we can have a lot of money saved to do other projects for our country because most of our infrastructures are dilapidated with public infrastructures. If you go to public universities, if you go to the bathrooms and all those things, you can see sometimes the stinks. I recently went to one of the places, University of Cape Coast, Atlantic Hall, where I was, and they sent me. It's so nauseating. So most of the public institutions, what is happening there, they need an upgrade of the facilities. Most of our primary schools and the trees, some bring their chairs from home. Yes, it is even on record that NGOs knows the number of primary school we have, and the GS don't know the number. Our NGOs knows. So there are a lot of things that we have to know. Our hospitals still have problems of no bed syndrome. We need to fix some of these things, and we need the money. But some of these monies are going to individual pockets. If you look at the totality of our GDP and the money that comes into the country, and then those that are siphoned out of corruption, it means about 25% of the money that we earn as a country goes to individual pockets. And that's too much. A quarter of it goes to individual pockets. So once we are able to seal it, then we can save money for other important projects and build more jobs. I believe that what will save this country is to build more factories, build more software, development, jobs. Once people have jobs, they will not bother politicians again. They will not. In America, you know that 65% of Americans don't even know the name of the vice president because they don't care. People have their jobs, and a change of government will not let you lose your job. So they don't care much about politics. But here, people are so dependent on politicians, they don't have the jobs. A single job, medical doctors, nurses, teachers, staying home 7 years, 5 years, 4 years, and skills are being wasted. We need to create jobs. Some of these money, when we save them, we should be able to use them to create jobs. Why do I say so? Because sometimes I teach people how to save. That the money that you spend on lunch every day, if you cook from home and you eat from home, you can save that money and then use it for something else. But sometimes people who cook from home, they save that money and they waste that money again. The savings that we are saving from this should be used for other important purposes. And I think that when we use it to create jobs, people will have something to do. And once they do that, they will also be paying taxes and the money will be coming into the system again. So jobs from this office and the money that we save.
Prof, and again, whilst we prepare to wrap up, concerns about punishing people caught in some of this act. I mean, there are a plethora of examples that we can mention. What has happened to all of those people? If we are putting in place a new office as well, and the story still remains as it has been, then that certainly comes to much ado about nothing.
So it's all about political will. And the reason why I think this office is different is that there are a lot of things we can copy to say, just using that word, but we call it best practices that you can pick from other countries. England is doing that, this office, and it's helping them a lot. South Africa is doing that, and Kenya is doing that. So there are best practices that we can pick from them. If you look at England, they have paired this office with the Auditor General's office. It means that auditing is going on from the beginning until the end, which is better than waiting till the end that auditing starts. Then you can't punish them, because once the person even goes to court, they can have plea bargain, which is one of the issues that I'm not very comfortable with. The person has stolen money, let's say 20 million, and says that, okay, allow me to pay back. I now have 10 million left. Take the money, and then the rest, we'll see what we can do. So plea bargain means that people know when they steal money and they even go to jail for 3 years and they come back, the money is still there for them to enjoy. But this one is saying that we are going to give you a certificate to start something. So it is not duplication of other people's functions. We are going to give you a certificate. We are independent body. We are going to give you a certificate to build a road from Accra to Kumasi. That road is going to cost us, let's say, $20 million. Now it's going to take you 2 years to build. You have 2 years to build. This is the quality we have. We want international quality standard. If anything comes, in between within the next 5 years, and we see any pothole, you come and fix it with your own money. So the money that we are giving to you, put some down. Now, when you start the project and we realize that you are not doing a good job because people around, the technical team will be talking to people living along the roadside, and they complain that the contractor is not coming to the site, not doing a good job. They stop you, take the money from you, you refund back the money, and then they give the contract to another person. So look at the way we are looking for efficiency. Once you allow that kind of competition, it will let people do a good job. And then they are also going to make sure that that single source of giving contract is also stopped. That is not going to be just an independent person. One person comes in and then they give that person a contract. So we are all hoping that this office will do their job very well, because the mandate, as I see here from all the research that I've done, will be different from the YOCO, from the SHRAJ, from the OSP, from the Attorney General Office in fighting corruption, because they wait till the act happens before they start chasing the culprit. This one starts from the beginning. And once they make sure that you sign, and we also sign, that this is value for money contract that has been given to you. This is the quality that we expect. This is the efficiency that we expect. You have all the resources to work with. You are not going to duplicate other bodies. We have the power to bite, because we go to Parliament. We are accountable to Parliament. And that is important. This office is not going to be accountable to the executive, the president who appointed them, but to Parliament, which is very important, because there's going to be checks and balances out there, and there will be exposed value for money. It means that we are checking you from the beginning before the end. They have the constitutional backing. They will be naming and shaming individuals before they take the contract away from them, right from the beginning or in the middle. They will not wait to the end of it. And then they will make sure that the oversight that they have is well executed. So I think that if we have the political will and support the presidency in bringing this kind of research, we'll have a long way in making sure that, and it shouldn't be a short-term thing. This is going to be a long-term thing. From the beginning, we'll have some bumps, some challenges, but if we stay focused, this body is going to become one of the best bodies of our country in fighting corruption.
So much for speaking to us this morning. I think it's still very early out there. Maybe you can go back to sleep. We wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Was there, you heard him always on our show, Professor Enoch Opoku Entry. He is a governance and leadership expert, giving us all the analysis that you have to know about with regards to the two main topics that we have discussed this morning. Prof, thank you. We are so grateful for your time. And also Dr. Jonathan Asante Ochre. He is a senior lecturer at the University of Cape Coast, and he is also the executive director of the African Institute for Strategic Studies. Dr. Jonathan Asante Ochre, thank you so much for your time. Rather unfortunate, Justice Abdullahi couldn't make it due to some busy schedules. But let's say a big thanks to Dr. Ishmael Honlonvo. He is an international relations expert, also joining us earlier on the previous conversation as well. Thank you so much for watching. Let me say a very big thanks to the team for helping put this one together. And a special big shout out to you, the Kenke Celeste Association in Somanya. Charlie, thank you so much for always tuning into WoezorTV, and to all the other people who always watch WoezorTV and making it numero uno. Charlie, we go all out for you. We are so grateful for that as well. The weekend is already here, Before I go, let me just use this opportunity to reach out to my people far away in Afajato South, the people of Lugba and Lugba Tota precisely. And then Chiochulo weekend uba ahaya lazo ugbanchi ahala zo afampete uma unta to gbanpete zo te ivaya yipigbi bloa tanyi blenji te uma to gbanuba ahaya blo tromie nami afanfe uma unta to iranu ahaya akpa blo ugba fufue uma unta to ta nu more blessings anye ya chichi blo communal labor eochi do ugba yo alocho do ojuyo pe ananu chiochu. And a special one to Togbe or Anansa Techi the 7th. Ananuchiochulo. My name is Randy Ahadzi. It's a weekend. Stay safe, stay out of trouble. Let's meet again next week. It's a wrap for now.
This is the Legal Education Act to regulate legal education and ensure the highest standards in terms of legal education, but also to open up the space, you know, for more opportunity for legal education in Ghana. This is the Governance Advisory Council Act. If you remember, it was one of the promises I made to promote good governance and trust in public office. And it's also been passed by Parliament, and I've given assent to it. And there's the Value for Money Office Act. It will help promote accountability. This office would review procurement and make sure that Ghana gets value for money. It would end the issue of inflated contracts. Also, source contracts will go to the Value for Money Office, and all contracts above a certain value will go to the Value for Money Office to make sure that Ghana is getting value for every CD that we spend. Signed.